Hello, friends. We are here coming to you live from a cemetery to have a special Halloween episode. Ooh! You know how much, I love Halloween, and I think that you guys love Halloween too, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I love
good.
it.
All right. So we've come here to do this special, fun Halloween episode. We are doing a giveaway today for anyone who comments here or on YouTube, and we're giving away Heather B. Moore's really cool book called Condemn Me Not. Tell us a teeny bit about how that happened.
Condemn Me Not is a historical novel that is based on a true story of my 10th great-grandmother who was accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials in 1692.
It's a super cool book, so you should leave a comment. And then don't forget to like and subscribe, because that would also really help us out. So we've got a couple stories today, and we're going to start off with Jen's.
Okay. I took some notes. My story is about the mysterious death of Edgar Allan Poe. So the story starts on a rainy October night in 1848, October 3rd. Joseph Walker, who is a pressman for the Baltimore Sun, is walking to, let's see the name of this pub, Gunners Hall, where he's going to vote. It's election day. And he finds a man in the gutter who is, in need of medical help. And they get the guy I'll tell you the name of the hospital, sorry. Anyway, to the Washington Medical College. And he can't tell him his name. He's confused. He's bedraggled. And they figure out after a little while that it's Edgar Allan Poe. He's wearing different clothes than belonged to him, than he left home in. He's suffering from delirium, hallucinations, incoherence, and he's calling for someone named Reynolds, and nobody knows who Reynolds is. And he died on October 7th. So that was 4 days of him just not knowing where he was, maybe under the influence of something, or he was just a mess. The doctor said he officially died of brain swelling, but that's not where the mystery is. On September 27th, he left Richmond, Virginia to help his friend, who was a poet named Marguerite St. Leon Loud, who is preparing a collection of poems that she was going to publish. And so this was 6 days later that he was found. He was only 40 years old. So some of the different theories behind what had happened to him is maybe he met up with some old army friends, and maybe they were drinking too much or whatever, and he ran in with a bad crowd, or someone beat him up or robbed him or something. Another theory that's super interesting is that he was a victim of something that they call cooping. I think that's cooping. I think it's called cooping. And he would have been kidnapped and beaten and sent in different disguises to vote, and forced to vote for whatever candidate this cooping group wanted him to vote for. And so that's how they got a bunch of different votes, and every time you vote you get a free drink. So he would have left there more drunk, and then they change his clothes and send him into in a different disguise. And so by the end of the night he could have been a disaster. Another thing that people thought maybe he died of carbon monoxide poisoning from being kind of squished into the pub for so long, but that's kind of a weird, who knows. And then mercury poisoning. He had mercury in his body, but a lot of people had mercury poisoning at that time because there was a cholera epidemic. So at the end of the day, nobody knows what killed Edgar Allan Poe, but it's almost like a story from his own writing, something weird, something unexplained and creepy. So anyway, what do you think, you guys?
So would you book it?
I would not book it. It's a horrible story. And I like stories where the authors live happily ever after.
That's true. He did not live happily ever after. How about you, Heather? Would you book it?
I don't know if I would book it, but I never knew that Edgar Allan Poe died that way. But it's very fitting, like you said. So I would say no, because I actually do like Gothic stuff, but I just don't know if I would write this particular story.
It's horrible.
So I think I would maybe try to book it, but I think I would definitely not do some kind of biographical fiction about Edgar Allan Poe, but I would maybe use the scenario to do something with someone else, and then maybe not quite have them die. I don't know.
Hallucinate for a week.
Yeah, hallucinate for a week, and then everything's fine, and the nurse is the person that they fall in love with. It's a romance. It's definitely a romance. Okay, so I'm going to tell this really quick story about our lovely President Andrew Jackson, who, as I was researching this story, I found out he was actually not so lovely at all. And I did not know that much about him, but apparently he was like a serial killer, murderer, horrible person. But anyway, a lot of people have heard about the Bell Witch that haunted a farm in Tennessee. Anyway, Mr. Bell had a farm in Tennessee, and he ended up buying like over 300 acres of this farm, and they were doing really well, and they were being super prosperous. And then all of a sudden, one day they were having dinner in the dining room, and they heard this like scratching and knocking on the outside of their cabin. And they went out, and no one was there. And it just kept happening, and things just really started escalating from there, where there are actual multiple witnesses who like have been to that farm and stayed at that farm that say that there is something there that pulls your covers off at night and slaps your face and talks back to you. And anyway, apparently Andrew Jackson was a bit of a supernatural ghost hunter. So he immediately came with some men to this farm, and they had this whole experience of their own where they were trying to get on the farm, and the wagon wouldn't cross the border until they told the witch until they acknowledged the existence of the witch. And then all of a sudden their wagons moved forward, and they tried to stay the night at the farm, and just weird stuff happened. And the next thing they know about Andrew Jackson and his men is that they were seen heading back to Nashville, which is where they came from, super, super early in the morning. So it kind of sounds like they didn't even last the night at the Bell Farm. So I don't know if this really counts as real life or actual fiction, because there are a lot of stories about Andrew Jackson there, but there's not like an official record of Andrew Jackson there. So I don't know. Heather, would you book it?
That's a good question. I think it's super fascinating, because I think the presidents of the United States are super fascinating. But I probably wouldn't book it, just because, like you said, it would be kind of a depressing story, unless maybe I added some other element and this was just like a side story of, and then Andrew Jackson was part of it.
Jen?
I like the idea of the witch not liking Andrew Jackson because he, the whole mess with the Indian Displacement Act and all the stuff he did. He was not kind. I don't know. It kind of is cool when the witch doesn't like the bad guy. So even if it's like a ghost of a witch who's like, and she scares him and the Tennessee militia so bad that they all retreat. So maybe I would do that.
So I love a good ghost story, and I think again I would try and book it, but I'm not sure necessarily that it would fit in with the types of books that my current publisher publishes. So I'd have to probably tone it down a little bit and definitely shuffle it aside into the realm of probably not a true story in the first place. Don't you think? I don't know. I do like a little supernatural, and I do have some in my stories, but I don't know if this is a little too much. All right, Heather has our last story for us.
So most of us are familiar with Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. So if you read about her history and her love interest in Percy Shelley and their whole leading up to, there's so many crazy things. There's like betrayal, there's adultery, there's death by suicide, there's just horrible incidents going on. There's children dying. So if you want to read like a horror story, just find her bio. Anyway, so Percy ends up dying in a boat accident with two of his friends, and when their bodies wash up ashore, so he has this circle of literary friends, and I always thought, wow, it'd be amazing to live back in the 1800s and rub shoulders with these literary people. No, that will never happen now, because now I know exactly what kinds of friends they were. So they decide, because they're romantics apparently, to burn their friends' bodies on, basically on the lake shore. And so that's what happens. But just before Percy Shelley is completely consumed, one of the literary friends reaches in and grabs his heart out, and he holds on to it knowing that apparently Mary wants it. I don't know what that conversation was like before the fire was started, but he held on to it for quite a while. And after Percy was buried in a Presbyterian graveyard, the heart was then given to Mary, and she kept it the rest of her life. And then 30 years after her death, they found the heart in her desk drawer, wrapped in one of Percy Shelley's poems. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's so fascinating, but I feel like all the terrible drama leading up to it, it would just literally be like reading this horror novel the whole time. So I probably wouldn't book it, but I might read it with a little trepidation.
I don't know. It's kind of a cool, creepy thing. It reminds me a little of Mrs. Havisham. Just her keeping the heart. I have questions about it. Like, was it like rotted or drying or like full of maggots, or was it burned enough that
They said it was calcified because he had tuberculosis or something like that. I don't know.
So it was not a healthy heart.
I think metaphorically and literally,
Yeah, okay.
It was not a healthy heart.
For Percy. Yeah, I would maybe not have the exact same conditions, just like Heather said. That's not really the kind of thing we write about. But like a weird character that carried around, her husband's heart. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting side character.
Well, it's a super cool real life story. It's so dramatic. But, they die on the boat wreck. They have to get burned. And, I don't know. It's just super dramatic. And they grab the heart out. I guess the guy burned his hands grabbing the heart out. And so it's like...
He's a stick.
Yeah, right? It's like a super dramatic. I don't know. I think, honestly, that I would be willing to book something like that because I kind of am fascinated by this whole... I love him so much, I'm going to keep his heart. Or maybe she hated him so much, she wanted to keep his heart.
Loved him.
So, I don't know. She loved him, I guess. I mean, I guess in the Victorian time period, like, they made rings and jewelry out of their dead people's teeth and all kinds of hair and all kinds of... I don't know. Why were the Victorians so weird? They were weird. Anyway, so I think I might try and figure out a way to book it because I think it's kind of cool, I don't know. I guess I like morbid things. All right. So anyway, thanks for joining us today on our adventure in the cemetery, and happy Halloween. And don't forget that we have the giveaway of Condemn Me Not by Heather Moore, and you can like and comment and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And thanks for joining us on Fiction in
Real
life.